This week, I've been praying for my classmate, Father Paul Scalia, because I knew what he had to do today in terms of presiding at his father's funeral, because I've had that experience myself of presiding at my mother's funeral. And I know that, there's a lot of things going on, but I have to say I listened to his homily, and all I wanted to go was, "Yay, Paul!" The reason I say that, and the reason it fits within the homily today, is that it was not about Justice Antonin Scalia, the great legal scholar. It wasn't even primarily about being the father of 9 children. It was about the basic Christian vocation that all of us have to follow. One of his lines in his homily that he said is that his father's greatest claim was that he was a practicing Christian, a practicing Catholic. Didn't have it right, but he was on the way. And that his experience of being someone who was in the church is that trumped everything. It trumped his relationship as father. It trumped his relationship as judge. It trumped his relationship as a citizen of this United States. That faith was the building block of all of those relationships. In the context of today's readings, we have that reading from St. Paul, and we need to hear it. Our citizenship is in heaven. Doesn't say our citizenship is in the United States. Our citizenship is if you're from another country. Our citizenship is in heaven. I think we need to reflect upon that from time to time. Because sometimes, it doesn't mean that we don't live in this country, we don't participate in this, but our citizenship is not here. So if we make that the focus of everything we do, if we get so involved in politics, that as we listen to what's going on, that it just destroys our peace of mind, that's because our citizenship is here. It's not there. The Gospels are challenging us to live differently. Jesus in the Gospel today, in the Transfiguration, we have the Feast of the Transfiguration midsummer. So we get this reading as the second week of Lent in a different context. And we have Luke's Gospel today. And there's a lot of very interesting things that I'm going to point out in Luke's Gospel to have us kind of hear this a little bit differently today. Three points. One, Jesus experiences the Transfiguration while being in prayer. Prayer changes how he is seen and how others react to him. Isn't that what prayer is supposed to do all the time? Change how we're seen, change how we see God. Prayer is the place to begin. We can't do anything without that relationship with God. The second thing to point out today is he is speaking with Elijah and Moses. And why Elijah and Moses? Why not Isaiah and Abraham? Why not King David? Why not Adam, for that matter? Why particularly did he appear with Moses and Elijah? There's a couple of different reasons. One, Moses and Elijah were both set upon by their own people. Moses was complained about, remember, in his own people. And sometimes they were not following him. Sometimes he was the only one, and he had to plead on behalf to God for the sake of his people because the whole people had become unfaithful. Remember, Elijah was set upon by the king. He had that little problem with King Ahaz and Jezebel and the prophets of Baal, and he had to flee for his life. that Jesus comes preaching the gospel, and it is opposed even by his own people at times. But also Moses and Elijah have seen the face of God. Remember, Moses wanted to see the face of God, and he said, no, you can't see the face of God and live. But what he did is he saw the back of God. He saw where God had been. Also, remember Elijah, when he wanted to see God, God said, I'll come by the cave and you'll hear me. And he heard the hurricane. He heard the tornado. And then there was a small breeze, and he went out from the cave and bowed down because God had passed by. Their experience of God changed them. The experience of seeing Jesus changed the apostles. They saw Jesus face to face. It allowed them to be prepared for what Jesus was about to do in Jerusalem. Which brings me to the third point of what's different about Luke's gospel today. It says they spoke of his exodus. Remember the first exodus, right? It was to escape Pharaoh. That God heard the cry of his people and would take his people out of slavery to bring them to the promised land. Well, the second Exodus, through the death and resurrection, not through the sacrifice of a lamb, not through the blood of a lamb, but through the sacrifice of Jesus, that he was going down to Jerusalem and understood himself to be the paschal sacrifice. The sacrifice that would save his people, would not bring them simply out of slavery, but slavery to sin. And ultimately to heaven, to the new promised land. Now, we live in this in-between time, right? We live in this time when the victory has been won, but we still live in this world, but we're also called to live as citizens of heaven, not just citizens of our own world. And to do that, we're calling other people through prayer, to encounter Christ, to encounter the one who has saved them. The one who is the king, the one who is the one coming into the world that changes everything. And that's what our call as Christians is, to make that encounter possible for other people. So as we practice being Catholics, as we practice being followers of the Lord and trying to get it right, we're also inviting other people to the hospitality of God. In Luke's gospel, that's a great theme. If you read all through it, the hospitality of God. God invites us through prayer to no longer see him as a guest in our world, but through hospitality that we become his disciples in this world. That we have an obligation to bring others to him as well, out of hospitality. It's a theme throughout Luke's gospel. And so part of our hospitality is our service to others. And we have a small ministry fair out in the Commons today. And that ministry fair is based around only three types of ministry: formation, hospitality, and liturgy. Because there are people who come to this community every Sunday who are not necessarily members of this community. They come here because they're seeking something. They've heard, something about that church on Ironbound Road, and they're here today saying, I wonder if the questions that I'm seeking today, I'm going to find an answer. And we know what we believe as those who follow Christ is the answers are here. But we have to be welcoming and inviting. And so the liturgies have to be run well. They have to be inviting to other people. And so there's certain ministries, sound ministries, Eucharistic ministers, that are not just about what we get out of it, but we need you all to consider this service to this community so that others might have the opportunity to encounter Christ. We have some ministries of hospitalities that we want to give oomph to. We want to start a whole new ministry, a parking ministry, that the welcome starts in the parking lot as we help you to park and as we help you to find where the parking spots are and welcome you in the parking lot. Ultimately, we're looking to have, and we've got plans on the board, to have a cart path that will have 14-passenger golf carts that will allow people who can't get the handicap parking but still have problems getting to places to be able to get to and from the church in a good way. We don't have enough spots to reserve everyone who wants to have a spot really close to the church. So we've got to find other ways of being welcoming, because we know that's an issue here. I can't build more parking lot. James City County won't let us. But we've got to find other ways of being welcoming. That parking ministry is one of the things that we're doing, and we're inviting you all to consider that. Greeters. We don't need people at the doors just to say, "Hi, how you doing?" But if you're a visitor, to welcome you and to say, "Hey, did you know, were you a visitor?" Say, "Yeah, I know you're not a visitor." But yes, you're a visitor. "Oh, that's great. Would you want to sit with these folks right here?" And so they can help you. And then if they want to tell you where the bathroom is, they can tell you where the bathroom is. We want this community to be a welcoming community, because when this community can become a welcoming community, it can be a community where prayer can be, people can really enter into prayer in a deep way and encounter Christ in a deep way. And once you encounter Christ in a deep way, we begin to change how we see our relationship with the world, how we see our relationship with each other. And so I'm inviting you all to spend some time at that mini ministry fair out there. But it's all about seeing Christ for who he is and how he's calling us to live in this world. In the in-between time between the victory that's already won and our completion of that time of being citizens in heaven.